Welcome to my video series on digital interactive notebooks. Today I'm going to be talking about the theme anticipation guide. Sometimes I call it Way In, sometimes I call it Where Do You Stand? It doesn't matter what you call it, it's the same concept really. It is a before you read the text activity to get students engaged in thinking about the themes and the conflicts and the types of situations that they will encounter in a text before they read it. So let's get into this. How do you set this up? So step number one is you need to create a series of statements. Now, that's probably the most difficult part of the whole lesson. That is what takes me the longest, is to come up with a series of statements. You might have some lesson in a school textbook or in a workbook or from somewhere that already has a series of theme statements, and maybe you're just taking that paper lesson and turning that into something digital, then great, you already have your theme statements. Otherwise, what I generally do is I think about the thematic topics that are in the text and the things that happen with the characters, and I kind of come up with some opinions that students will react to strongly. So anyways, that's the hardest part. Then we get to student response and supporting opinions and recording new thinking. So this is a pretty easy lesson. It shouldn't take me too long to explain this. Here we go. Step one is to create a series of statements. It's kind of nice if you create a template for some of the different activities that you use frequently in your interactive notebooks so that the setup of it is easier. You just put in your statements for the new text that you're doing. So this is what my template for it looks like. In the white boxes, I type in my statement. The blue boxes are left open for students to explain. And then there's some X's for them to click and drag the X to the agree or disagree side. Here's what it looks like up close. And I create mine, like the background of it, and then I download it as an image and I put it into the layouts. That way, when students are working in their notebook, they are only able to type here. And then these I layer on top of it so they can click and drag them. But when I make my notebooks for the students, they can only edit the stuff that I want them to be editing. And that is a big learning experience that I had the first year I was using digital notebooks. Make it in the layouts. Put it in the background. Pro tip. Here's what that looks like. So you can see all of my stuff is in the background. My theme statements are there. And you can probably see in that blue box, there's like a little thing that says click to add subtitle. So when you're in the layouts, I have added a subtitle box there so that students on this slide will only be able to type there and only, be able to move the X's. Otherwise, they'll mess up everything and then they'll need a new slide and all that other good stuff. Make it in the layouts. I want to talk about technology integration because one of my big reasons for using digital interactive notebooks was because I felt like the composition books, the paper books with the glue and the tape and all that, it wasn't very interactive. So in going digital with my notebooks, I've been able to integrate all kinds of interactive activities that involve, whole class discussions. You can have differentiation opportunities in a digital notebook that you can't have in a paper one. So anyways, my go-to for these types of things are Jamboard because it's free and it's great. And then either Nearpod or Pear Deck. Because sometimes I don't want the kids to do their notebook independently by themselves. Sometimes I want to do it as a whole class. So at that point, I will use Pear Deck or Jamboard or Pear Deck or Nearpod, depending on what my school is using at that time. I've been both of those users. But this is what the agree or disagree statement would look like in a Jamboard. So each frame, there's multiple frames in the Jamboard. I add only one of the theme statements to each frame. That way, there's room on the screen for kids to put Post-it notes down on the agree or disagree side. And I think these statements came from All Summer in a Day. I think I did these for that. This was during distance learning. What does the Nearpod stuff look like? So with Nearpod or Pear Deck, doesn't matter. Same concept. I don't have them do all the theme statements on a single page. I break those down into separate pages. So where do you stand? Do you agree or disagree with this statement? I add my statement in the space above the thumbs up and the thumbs down. And then you can either have it be a draw it where they circle. Do they agree or disagree? And you can see the whole class's responses there. But what I like even better than that is the poll. In Nearpod, they have a poll. You could do it with Pear Deck too. I think they have a multiple choice in their free version of Pear Deck. But this is an example from a lesson I did during distance learning. And it was on 11 by Sandra Cisneros. And my statement was, children should always listen to / obey grown-ups. And then there, so I would show that this is my Nearpod lesson, exactly what it looked like. They would see that, and then they would get a poll. That is a fun way to do it because then the kids can see what everyone says. So if you're not going to use the Jamboard and you're doing whole class, you can do a whole class lesson with Jamboard too. But it's nice for the kids to see what everyone thinks. So I like to have that in there. So then we get to the next part about supporting their opinion. So they weighed in, they said whether they agreed or disagreed. In the notebook, it'll look like this because they're doing it all independently on one page. So they would write their explanation here. In either Nearpod or Jamboard, what I do for the explanation part, I don't have them explain every single theme statement. I only have them explain one. So this is what a template slide would look like. It has nothing on it because it's just a template for you to customize and add your own stuff there. And notice how this text and this icons is all different. So if you don't want to make your own templates for this and you're going to buy mine, they are not going to look like this because I went back and remade everything so that everything would have the same fonts and the same style of icons. So, because I want everything to look the same, because you might mix and match. You might, oh, I want to do a theme anticipation guide, and then I'm going to copy those slides and add them into my other notebook on summarizing. And you want everything to match and have a sense of continuity to it. So in my video, yes, stuff is all different. But anyways, moving on. Also, a template slide, you're not going to have statements here. That's for you to do yourself. But a lot of my lessons, especially like novel lessons and stuff, have this activity in it. And then it already has the theme statements for you. I don't know what text these ones came from. I can't even remember, and I don't recognize it. But it's just for you to get the idea. So let's take a look at what it looks like when students do it. This example is from All Summer in a Day, also done during distance learning. And all 4 of the theme statements are there. And this is a disagree. So explain why you disagree with one of the statements from this list. Because they might not disagree with all of them, right? And if you're doing this in a whole class, like you do need things to kind of move a little bit more quickly. What I'm evaluating here more so is, are they able to explain their thinking and support an opinion with a reason? So you can see a whole variety of different types of responses that are good and not so good. like the one on the end here. I also disagree with the one about children adapting. So that student didn't identify which statement they were talking about very clearly, and they did not support why they disagreed with it. I disagree with number one because my auntie does not know how to use a phone. That works. It's okay. But anyways, this is an activity I like to do very much. It really gets the kids talking a lot, and they'll change their minds and switch around. Sometimes we do this with no technology at all, and I just have a line in front of my classroom. It's on the wall, and it's that one I call it "Where do you stand?" And they move from one side to the other, and that's also a great way to do this activity too. Not everything needs to be technology, but that's kind of a fun one to do because they stand along this line of way over here totally agree, some in the middle, way over here disagree. And then I call on kids to share this kind of stuff out loud, and then I give them an opportunity to move if they want to. So, yeah. What does it look like to do it? So that was what a Jamboard version of it would look like. To use that in a Nearpod or a Pear Deck, it would look like this. So instead of everybody putting Post-it notes on a single frame, this way it would be a draw it slide where they would type in a box. So you can see there's a text box for them to type in here. Same direction, same concept, just typing in a box and single student. In Nearpod, they also have a collaborate board. So you could just type in a statement there and let everybody put Post-it notes. It'll basically be like doing a Jamboard. But I like to have a lot of flexibility in how I do things. Another thing totally unrelated to this, but that I just loved about Nearpod was their like video library to add stuff in. So when I did this for 11, we did our polls, we did our what do you agree, what do you disagree with. I shared a quote that kind of connected with the text, not from the text, but kind of connected those ideas. And then we watched Sandra Cisneros read the story out loud, which was lovely. Let's see. So talked about technology integration. What does it look like in Jamboard? What does it look like in Nearpod? I don't think I have anything else to say. Oh, I did want to mention again that a template won't have anything here. That's for you to add your own stuff. Then the last part, in my opinion, the most important part of the lesson, possibly, is the revisiting. So we would have watched that video from Sandra Cisneros, or you read a text for whatever your short story book was that you were doing. Then go back and revisit your opinions on that theme anticipation guide and think about what shifts you had. So maybe you completely 100% agreed with something before and now you're not so sure. Maybe you completely flipped from disagree to agree with something. So this is an activity that I want them to do after the text. I want them to go back and look at it again. I like to do a lot of reflection stuff in my lessons because I feel like it is one of the things that gives you so much insight into students' learning, into their thinking and their thought processes. I'm kind of big on doing that stuff. So this is one of 4 different activities for previewing a text. And I want to go over what types of activities you might want to choose. So let's take a look here. I made this lovely little chart. Which would be the best activity to choose? So it depends on what kind of a text you're looking at. If your text is going to have a lot of unfamiliar vocabulary words, then a 3-2-1 bridge would be good, and categories would be good. Categories, I think, is my best activity. The way that I do categories involves predicting and inferring, using vocabulary words, summarizing, activating schema, and building background knowledge. This activity that we talked about today, where do you stand, theme anticipation, whatever you want to call it, involves predicting and inferring and activating schema. Text graffiti, activating schema, predicting and inferring, using quotes from the text. So that's one where you have to use quotes from the text to set that up. And then 3-2-1 bridge, the way that I do it, it involves summarizing, it involves building background knowledge and vocabulary. So depending on the type of text that you're reading, select your activity to preview based on what are the skills that you want to emphasize. And that's it. You can get my templates. I'm going to have a whole set of previewing templates. So all 4 of those things will be included with a teacher's guide that kind of explains how to do each one. But they will be templates. They don't have, the stuff filled in. So it's not a no prep thing at all. But the nice thing about a template is that you can reuse it and reuse it and reuse it and reuse it for all different kinds of activities. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. I have a new website. It'll say coming soon if you go to that because it's not quite ready yet, but it will be ready very soon. I'm so excited to be almost done. I've been working on it for a really long time. I used to have the books on. I think that one still works. My middle school mind website, I lost that domain name by accident. So I am just combining everything into one new site. I'm updating all my posts with better stuff and doing new posts. It's going to be great. I hope you'll check it out. And that's it. Thanks for joining today.